Men have come to this place, and men have gone from this place according to the rivers. Men's fortunes have risen and fallen as the rivers rose and fell. For we hold this land only as we hold the waters to man's timing, and direct them to man's purpose. This is the West, USA, 17 states where limited rainfall makes existence dependent on water conservation. The problem is to get water from where it falls to where it will do the most good. Unless the natural supply is moved to suit man, he will be plagued with alternate floods and drought. 100 years ago, our people in the West tackled the problem of bringing the water to the land. Irrigation 2,000 miles east and west, 2,000 miles north and south. Irrigation developments built by pioneers to water their farms, by communities to water their valleys, and by federal reclamation when needs called for larger, more complex systems. By wise development of our river basins, we have made them support more people. The West has reclaimed 22 million irrigated acres from the desert, 6 million acres on reclamation projects alone, homes for 250,000 farm families, and for every farm family, several families in town. The same water that gives life to thirsty acres produces power to process the products of those acres and spark general industrial expansion. New resources, new wealth, new markets to make America strong and keep America free. Water for the earth, water for power, water for work and play. Reclamation water is all these. There was always the promise of gold in western hills. Yet the West can never yield more wealth than its water will allow. In an irrigation system office, the manager is talking with an irrigation farmer.
If you ask me, the future of not only the West, but of the whole country depends largely on a couple of things. It depends on making the best use of the water we've already got and how much more water we can put to use.
Yes, I know there's a lot we irrigators can do to make every drop count, but you fellas have to deliver it to us before we can use it. You know, we used to sort of take water for granted, but the way the whole West has been growing, it looks like we're going to have trouble finding enough to go around.
You're right, because here in the West, agriculture and industry, too, to a large extent, can grow only as fast as we get the water.
But it isn't entirely a matter of finding new water. We can gain a lot by just making better use of what we have.
You're putting your finger on one of irrigation's biggest problems. Do you realize that on many irrigation projects, about half the water supply is lost before it ever reaches the farm turnout, wasted through seepage, transpiration by weeds, and inefficient operation all along the line? You might say that for every river we put to work, we lose the equivalent of another one nearly as big.
That means about half of the developed western rivers are lost. That's as far as irrigation is concerned.
That's right. Put them all together and you'd have one of the world's biggest rivers with dams, canals, and ditches already built to put its water to work. Millions and millions of dollars spent to make the water available, and not a drop going on a farm. Lost River, you might call it.
That's a good name for it. And to think whole rivers lost when the country is so critically short of irrigation water.
But much of this tremendous loss can be saved through good management with the backing of you irrigators. Saving this water is the quickest and cheapest way we can increase western irrigation and grow more food and fiber to meet the country's soaring needs. Now, suppose we take just a few minutes to talk about some of the things we can do right here on our own system to recover our share of that lost river. Water conservation really starts on the watershed above the dam. In order to plan our season's operations properly, we have to know what the runoff will be. So we use snow surveys coordinated by the Soil Conservation Service, the state, and other groups. Precipitation measurements and long-range weather forecasts from the Weather Bureau. And data on stream flow and water table levels on the watershed from the U.S. Geological Survey. Reforestation and watershed protection by the Forest Service and others helps to protect our source of water.
Yeah, and it helps keep the soil on the land, too. That's where it belongs, not in our reservoirs.
Even with a clean reservoir, we have our problems. Seepage, for instance, can occur in spite of the best engineering and construction. Sometimes we have to grout by forcing a mixture of cement, sand, and water down through the holes to stop underground leaks. Operation of the gates at the reservoir takes a lot of careful management. The trick is to keep an adequate supply flowing without any unnecessary waste. This is often complicated by downstream power plants, flood control, and navigation, as well as irrigation. But irrigation is the main job.
That's fine. You conserve the water that goes through the valves. But what about the surplus water that spills from the reservoir?
Surplus water can be saved by diverting it into spreading basins. It percolates down through the gravel to recharge the underground water basin.
Diversion dams are not as spectacular as storage dams, but their operation is just as important.
You bet it is. Gates need to be set frequently to meet changing demands. A lot of water may be wasted by gates which aren't adjusted often enough because they're hard to operate or hard to get to. Modern, power-operated gates cost money, but they pay off in water saved. Proper management includes continuous and accurate measurement so the gate tender knows how much is going down the ditch at all times. Good management includes things like keeping sluice gates in good working order so that it will be a simple matter to sluice out silt from behind the diversion dam. This ought to be done regularly to prevent silt from getting into the canal. But it's below the diversion dam, in the canals and laterals, where we really get back some of that lost river. As common a thing as overloading a canal can waste a lot of water and lead to even more serious trouble if the ditch breaks.